Um, so offerings, like in my experience, it really does depend per pantheon and per deity or entity that you're working with. There's even what people call uh, like dumb supper or dumb dinner, which is like specifically offerings to your ancestors. Um, and you can give food and stuff to other offerings to entities. But when it comes to this, I'm going to mostly be talking about deity work, since that's what most people focus on. I don't have a lot of experience with ancestor work to begin with myself. I have some because of like the Native American, the Irish like culture really believes in ancestor work. So there's just some holidays that like to me have always been just like this is ancestor time. But as for my own personal practice, I don't practice it a lot. I do more deity and entity work when it comes to offerings. And like I said before, that really depends on the pantheon that you're working with. I'm going to start with using my stuff as an example and then kind of branch off from there. We're going to start with my patron, which is Lucifer. I am a mostly infernal working practitioner at this point. I did start with like folklore in the Native American and Celtic stuff, and then I moved my way into the Norse, and then I went into more infernal stuff later on. So when it comes to Lucifer and I don't have an altar for him. Um, I have a place where I put tools that are specifically designated to him, but that's not an altar. I very rarely give him offerings uh, in the physical sense. So when I give him an offering, the most common one I would say is incense and candle burning. When I first started, my altars literally consisted of just one candle assigned to a deity, and I wrote their name on it, and then like a stone because that's the only space I had. I was in the closet, the broom closet still. It was easier for me to get away with just one candle in a stone for that deity and entity. So I don't have um, anything specific for Lucifer. I have this incense burner, which I like, so I use it for him a lot because it's birds that are holding skulls. This is technically a backflow. I do put sticks in it. He likes patchouli, so I normally give him patchouli, aka vampire blood, because it has a patchouli and a couple other scents mixed into it. Like I think it has myrrh and stuff like that. And the way that I found that out is that I did a lot of research before, like really working with him. Patchouli is actually uh, patchouli is actually like a booster for clairvoyancy and communicating with the spiritual. And my main workings with Lucifer is based upon communication. My own natural gifts and ability are based upon communication with different deities. I'm gonna take this off since none of you guys are talking. I just realized that I don't need that anymore. Um, so it makes sense that my workings with him involve around talking and like other D&D work bases. So I would want something that does amplify it. Another good one would be Dragon's Blood incense. And that's because that also boosts energy. So really anything that's a booster to energy or creativity uh, would be for Lucifer. And if you know anything outside of the fact that he's like the devil of the Bible, um, is that he was before, like, in his angelic form, was actually registered as a deity or an angel of creativity and innovation. So things like when I do something creative, I generally like do it in the name of him. Um, or with when I worked with Apollo for a while, because I did do that, and they actually share a lot of similarities. Um, I would make a lot of jewelry and like have Apollo like his presence with me in that. So offerings really do base upon the deity, the entity, who you are, why you're working with them, and how traditional you are. So I'm an eclectic on top of it. I don't really like tie myself to one pantheon. I try to be as respectful as I can for every pantheon too. And I understand that some pantheons are not like are closed practices to me. And I don't really try to like reach in there unless like, it's for a client. And then I just try to do respectful research and just kind of be like, hey, here's your message. Leave it at that. That's for them now. Um, Another thing is singing. I don't think I have a good voice. I do know how to read sheet music and stuff like that. I was part of a band for a long time. One of the things that Lucifer prefers me to do as an offering for him is for me to sing. I can choose the song, I can choose whatever. He just wants me to feel more confident in myself when it comes to that aspect. I feel like a lot of people growing up were told that they have a bad singing voice and were squashed on that, especially if you're a AFAB. I feel like almost every like AFAB at some point was like, I'm gonna be the singer of the world. And then their dreams got squished in some way or form. And that's just not true. A lot of kids actually have a hard time singing because our vocal cords aren't developed. And so we don't have like a steady tone, and nor do we know how to use our breath and stuff like that. So that's actually part of my shadow work is getting past, those words that these people have basically like pushed into my skull as far as possible. So shadow work is another way to give offerings. Um, One of the first deities I worked with was actually Aphrodite. It was Aphrodite and Loki were the first two deities I worked with. And I started working with them for two different reasons. Loki was for basically for me to really start feeling comfortable working with deities and entities and getting into my more communicative gifts, and like move away from the folk magic that I really learned. Um, Whereas Aphrodite was to help me with my confidence and help me with my health, actually. My hair is pretty full right now. I did take a shower today, but I used to have really, really thinning hair. Since working with Aphrodite, it's one of the things that have gotten better. I'm still working on it. Still a little bit of progress needs to be made, but it's a lot better than it used to be. One of the things that Aphrodite and I used to do was really focus on skin and hair care, daily routine of that, at least weekly things like a hair mask and stuff. And those were done in dedication to her. It's not a common, like what we call it is glamour magic. Um, it's not common to have other entities and deities to like use glamour magic and stuff like that. Aphrodite's the most well known for her beauty alone. Most people go to her when it comes to beauty, love, things like that. So she was one of the first beings I work with. I don't work with her anymore. I still have her first candle that I made her personally. And it looked like a beach, and I was so proud of it. Like, it was one of the first candles I made. I was like, oh my god, it looks like the beach. That's another way to do offerings. Is something you could be making. I know Loki's chaotic. I used to put like acorns on his altar. I find a really nice acorn. I would put it on his altar. One of the things I still have a tiny altar for him. And it's a couple stones, but the main component of Loki's altar is a Rolo, like the candy. That was like one of the first things that I put on his altar. And I had the same Rolo on his altar for like 3 years until eventually it melted because I was moving and I didn't have air conditioning in my car. So then I got him a new Rolo, and now I have had this new Rolo for a year. Um, Now it's not, and that's just like daily things. Some deities want offerings daily, some want weekly, some want monthly, some want them on only specific holidays, some want them on for rituals and stuff like that. Like I did a really big spell last year and I called in a lot of entities and deities, mostly infernals, to help me And each one I had a different task list I had to do and complete in order to get their help. Um, it's called like petitioning. That's a very specific kind of like thing. It's basically you're asking for help with XYZ, and they go, okay, I will do that, but I need XYZ in return. So that's kind of like more of an exchange offering, I would say. I don't know if I would like really categorize that under offerings. To me, it's more of a prayer than anything else, but it does involve offerings. Now, it's not uncommon when you talk about like older deities, my favorite being Skadi, and she's from the Norse pantheon, to look at their mythology and their history shows a really dark, uncomfy offering that in modern times we wouldn't do. Like her main two offerings were blood and man happy juice. We're just gonna call it that because I don't know what to call it without like getting demonetized. Um but like so like we're not gonna do that like to like during this time and era. And the reason why they would do that is so the winters wouldn't be so harsh and less people would die and get sick, and it, you know, maybe they could get easier food and the deer wouldn't be so hard to hunt and stuff like that. That's why they would give those extreme offerings, because it was literally life or death for them. So we don't really have to do that anymore. We live in nice heated like housing, and you know, we have grocery stores. We're not hunting anymore. A thing that I have modified with my workings with Scotty is instead of giving her blood, I give her bloodstone, which has like these brilliant red flakes in it. I don't have her altar out right now. I like moved and I haven't unpacked everything still. Um, but she used to have a really big palm stone and then a heart of it. I also give her, since she's a hunting goddess, I give her like rabbit pelts and feathers and other like bones and stuff like that. Um, that's not uncommon to see when it comes to really, really old deities, though, is that extreme offerings of like blood and life, even, and other like things that are kind of taboo in today's society, nonetheless, to give to a deity.